Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. This is Cinesmack. And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 158 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel, that's Doctor of Thinkology, Rowald.
That's what? Doctor
of Thinkology.
Oh, Thinkology. Yes. I had a quote. Sorry, I got distracted. I didn't understand what you said. I had a quote about, and this applies to me right now. There's lots of people without brains who do plenty of talking.
This is going well.
This is me. This is me for sure.
Second, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Andrew. I'm very drunk, and I intend on getting still drunker before this evening's over. Zomwalt.
If I were the king of the forest,
Andrew's had a stroke. Third, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films. Tom, where do you want to be oiled first? Haggis.
I don't know what talking Tommy Rod is, but I think this is as close as we're going to get.
Fourth, writer, actor, and director Kyle, I want you to faint. This is what you were meant for. Fine.
Oh, I do declare, I spent some time in a Yankee prison for biting an old lady down the road as well. So I have much in common with both of these films.
All right, let's poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, Southern Belles and Kansas Castaways, welcome to the main event. Tonight, two American classics compete to come out on top. Will we finally give a damn about Gone with the Wind? Or will the Wizard of Oz take the win back to Wichita? In the first corner, from 1939, written by Margaret Mitchell, Sidney Howard, and Oliver H.P. Garrett. Directed by Victor Fleming, George Cukor, and Sam Wolf. Starring Thomas Mitchell, Vivian Lee, and Clark Gable. Gone with the Wind. In the second corner, also from 1939, written by Noel Langley, Lawrence Ryerson, and Edgar Allan Wolfe. Directed by Victor Fleming,
and King Vidor. Starring Ray Bolger, Frank Morgan, and Judy Garland, the Wizard of Oz.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just let you guys off the leash right now because we have 6.5 hours, almost 7 hours of film to talk about. So let's start off with our first round. What's that, Andrew?
Still not as long as Dr. Zhivago versus Lawrence of Arabia.
That is true.
I'm just throwing this out there.
This is our second longest. Two movies to watch. This is our second longest episode. First round, writing.
All right, so I want to start off Wizard of Oz. We have some problems. This is going to come up quite a bit. That when people frame movies around with them being dreams and something that people kind of dream up, is that it allows them to sidestep a lot of criticism. Where you're like, well, it was a dream. So there's a lot of stuff that Wizard of Oz gets away with, and it gets away with so much nonsense and shit that just doesn't make sense. And there's motivation, there's motivations, and I mean, really, the script for Wizard of Oz is not good. I mean, it's filled with bad advice and just weird idioms and there's just some things that just don't make sense in it at all. But we have to take it all as this is actually happening in the dream of a little girl, which like I said, it allows them to get away with a bunch of this crap. So first of all, when Glenda tells Dorothy that the Munchkins are going to see you safely to the border of Munchkin Land, which is right there. They walk her all of 10 feet. They were at the border anyway. I mean, I don't know how far Munchkin Land goes in the other direction, but as far as I could tell, that Munchkin Land is really probably 20 square feet that all these people live in.
Technically, wouldn't they need the least amount of space?
I'm not going to endorse that comment as a sub-height human, but sure.
Sub-height. You are below height.
I am below average.
Oh, okay.
And you can below me. So, I don't.
Wow.
I blew myself.
Another question is Oz the name of the wizard or is Oz the name of the land? Because they say hey, yes. Welcome to the land of Oz.
Yes.
And oh, I am Oz, the great and powerful. I'm is the land Oz or is he Oz? But it's both of them are Oz. So the Wizard of Oz is named Oz.
It's like the president of America being named America.
Yes. It's absolutely ridiculous. But again, dream of 16-year-old girls, so they get away with it. I'd never caught when the witch is melting that she says, "Who thought a little girl like you could destroy my wickedness?" And I just I don't know. I think the witch is dying, and she's like, "I'm just gonna throw out some word salad and see what happens." I was surprised that there's another part that when the Scarecrow gets his brain and he rattles off the Pythagorean theorem, it is funny that they get that wrong. That's not the Pythagorean theorem at all. He says isosceles triangle, and the formula says it's actually for right triangle. So I thought that was actually, I don't know how that really kind of got past people, but it was 1939 and people were stupider, so they didn't have the internet to look it up.
It's also funny he knows Earth math.
It is funny that he knows that, isn't it? But geometry is universal, as I found out in Interstellar. But they probably haven't seen that yet because they weren't alive.
Is Pythagoras universal?
Is what?
Pythagoras, does he exist in Oz?
He must, right?
He must.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't cut away to Dorothy and Tin Man looking at each other like, what the fuck's he talking about? What's a triangle? Okay, so some of the bad advice. When Oz says a heart is not judged by how much you love, but how much people love you, I was like, that's a fucking horrible thing to say to somebody. Or your heart isn't judged based on you. It's based on what other people think of you. And I'm like, that's fucking horrible to tell a little girl. Like, you can love as much as you want. It doesn't really matter. Only if people, like, you have to be liked. Like, what a fucking death of a salesman piece of advice for this little girl. And I was like, well, Dorothy's not going to get very far. So
it was kind of a premonition for social media.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. How many likes?
How many likes? Yeah. How many likes can you get? You're only loved if you get enough likes.
Yeah. Your life isn't determined by the weight of actual friends, only virtual ones. And then Dorothy's like lesson that she learned at home is that everything that she ever needed was right here at home. Like, she didn't need to go anywhere. Like, if her heart was yearning to go off somewhere, well, then she wasn't looking hard enough at home. And I was like, that's a horrible thing too. Like, no, I'm sorry, but living on the farm with, Auntie Em and Uncle Henry, is it Uncle Henry? I don't remember the uncle's name, and the 3 farmhands, like, that's just going to end badly. She needs to get the hell out of there. So, all right, Gone with the Wind. On the other hand, Gone with the Wind, I thought, took a really, really dense book and condensed it down. And I had seen Gone with the Wind a long time ago, and I didn't care for it very much. I was really impressed by how much I liked it this time. It's a really audacious movie. I mean, they really went nuts, and it's just a massive movie on every scale. I thought it was weird that, I mean, it shouldn't, but that the Wilkes are just the kind of people that marry their cousins. What are you going to do? I thought Rhett Butler's turn to enlist with the Army was it kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't really get the motivation for Rhett being like, fuck this shit, I'm going to go fight now the war is over. Like, it just seemed weird that he, like, things are wrapping up, but he's going to go fight what's left. And I don't know. It didn't seem make a whole lot of sense to me. I think that's everything. I did think the ring buyback scene was really funny. When they buy back the wedding rings that they donate to the Confederacy, and they just kind of basically hand Scarlett hers. Like, yeah, the less we say about her, the better. So anyway, that's all I have to say about writing. I know it's just kind of lots of bits and pieces, but
yeah.
What you got?
Well, I'll say with Gone with the Wind, audacious is a good word. It's quite an undertaking. It's a very long movie, of course. But to its credit, a lot of stuff does happen and ties together pretty well. We can talk about, I don't know if this is the place to talk about the characters, or if we'd rather save that for directing or acting. But I will say that Rhett Butler is basically the prototype for Han Solo. He's a privateer. He's unbelievably wealthy, believes in nothing but himself till he has a change of heart. It's just Han Solo did it better because he slowly found things about the rebellion to be endeared with and to fight for greater honor. Whereas Rhett Butler just makes one of the most left-hand turns I've ever seen in my life. Literally at a crossroads, just decides to completely change his character and walk away. As far as the characters in the movie, a lot of them are kind of one note. You have the woman who was oblivious to Scarlett being an absolute jerk and always staying by her side despite her coveting her husband. Her husband, Ashley, being there nothing as an object of lust for a man who is clearly a 5.5 out of 10, even in the Deep South. But
and we don't really know. We don't really know why she's so in love with him. It's
I don't know.
It's not ever really clear, like what his appeal to her is.
He's blonde in the South. I don't know. I also think it's funny that Mr. O'Hara speaks with a very thick, terrible Irish accent, but no one in his family has picked up any of that affectation. They are all Southern belles, with the exception of his very obviously American wife. I'm getting off track here. It is a long, drawn-out sort of epic tale, but it does repeat itself a lot. Scarlet makes the same poor decisions, hurting people over and over and over again. Even her moment of, I guess, what you could think of as redemption in the end, when she realizes she loves and needs Rhett, is too little too late. She has been responsible for so much pain and suffering and carnage in her life. And she has tricked good, innocent people. She has done nothing but bad for herself, all while being a petulant ass. When I started The Wizard of Oz, I thought, man, Dorothy Gale is really a jerk. She just complains and whines. She seems to be completely and utterly mystified why a dog with a long bite record would be up for disposal. Clearly, Toto, despite looking like a harmless dog, has terrorized the people of small Kansas and should have been shot on sight. But she just cannot believe that something like that would happen to her. She's also very careless with her life, falling into a pig pen and standing in front of a window during a hurricane or a tornado. Sorry. So, yeah, I thought she was like, ooh, what an unlikable protagonist. And then I watched Gone with the Wind, which I think has the least likable protagonist of any movie I've ever seen.
You didn't feel just
I agree completely.
You didn't feel a little bit of sympathy when she had lost everything and was just trying to keep the shit together on the plantation?
No. She had absolutely brought that upon her. I mean, that's karma. Also, she's on the wrong side of history. So I don't care if anybody burns her plantation to the ground. No, I don't care. I know this may be a hot topic, a hot opinion in 2024, but I'm pro-union. I'm anti-Confederacy.
All right, so sorry. I find this fascinating. Had her farm been outside Albany, you would have given her a little bit more sympathy.
Oh, if her farm was outside of Albany, the Confederates never would have made it there to burn it. I don't think they are losers. They're losers. Tennessee, yeah, they're losers. Yeah, I've known my wife 3 times longer than the Confederacy lasted. So all-time losers. Anyways. Yes, big grand story, interesting, lots of stuff happens, a lot of repeating themes, some interesting characters, some very, very hateable characters, and some very bad characters. Wizard of Oz. I mean, a lot of tropes are born from Wizard of Oz. I understand what you're talking about, the narrative and framing device. It works for this movie because it's sort of fun and whimsical. You are 100% right about all the terrible advice. I think that's a byproduct of being 1939, yes, when people were dumber. And I think these things look good on paper, and they don't think about how they sound when they come out of people's heads.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kyle, as far as like the most unlikable characters that I've seen in a long time in a movie. It's like there wasn't even a single character that I really liked all that much. Definitely not Scarlett O'Hara. I didn't really like Rhett Butler either. And then a lot of the other characters were really, kind of pushovers and simps and just weakling characters who didn't stand up for themselves. And I just was like, I don't like these people either. What's wrong with these?
Collectively, they were standing up for themselves.
I guess. And then, then you've got the whole glorification of the antebellum South and the glorification and the beauty of the plantations and the joys of slavery. And that's one reason that I did not like Scarlett O'Hara during that scene, the scenes where she was like trying to bring Tara back from being burned and save it, because then she's out there complaining, oh, it's such tiring work and my hands hurt, and I long for the days when we could just have black people do it for us, and it's just like, I don't feel sorry for you at all. I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. And then she just, and Kyle, you mentioned like her finally realizing that she wanted to go after Rhett or was interested in Rhett. Well, it was only at the point where she didn't think she could have him that she changed her mind. So she only went for him because she thought it was something that she couldn't have, and she had to have it. And that's the way she was through the whole movie. And, you just there are some great. So as far as the writing is concerned, there's a lot of great dialogue. There's a lot of memorable lines from it, obviously. I don't know how many of those come directly from the book or how many of those were, added to the screenplay. But there's some really memorable lines and some great dialogue. And just to, the interactions between these characters where she's manipulating them and trying to get what she wants and those kinds of things. There's a lot of good dialogue. It's well written. It's just that some of the characters aren't very likable, and the themes are questionable. I think even then they should have been questionable, and maybe it was too fresh, too soon, for it to be questionable. But yeah, Tom, I see all your points with the whole Wizard of Oz, the convenience of having a dream and being able to get away with everything. But I found those characters more enjoyable and more likable, and I was actually rooting for them to actually succeed. And I found the writing, especially some of the musical sequences, to be, and maybe that's for later. I don't know if that counts under writing or not, but I found some of that stuff quite enjoyable. So I thought the writing was good for both of these, but there's definitely one I enjoyed more than another.
Andrew, if you would like to say something, go ahead.
The one positive thing I will say about the writing is that Gone with the Wind is sort of like what we would consider, some of our war movies that we enjoy today. We mostly see it from the U.S. or the Allies side, the winning side, but there are some really good movies out there that portray it from the German side and the Nazi side that shows a different aspect of what went on during World War II, good or bad. And so from that aspect, I was thinking of it from, this is a Confederate movie telling the story from a side we don't normally see movies or stories about, because you normally see those about the winning side in a sense. Other than that, I don't really have anything good to say. The main character was the most unlikable person I've ever known in my life, and I would have never have ever associated. And my one question, I think, Gabe, you kind of touched on it. What was so big deal about Scarlet? Like, even at the beginning of the movie, it was like everyone is like, "Oh my God, Scarlet, she's so beautiful." What? Did she have beer flavored nipples that no one knew about? Like, what was so amazing about Scarlet?
No, Andrew,
I believe beer-flavored nipples was shot, but they did not leave it in the movie.
I read.
Okay.
They had tappers on them.
Yeah, that's in the book.
Oh, see, now that would have maybe have changed the movie a little bit, to me understanding why people actually gave two fucking shits about her that I don't care about. Like, I didn't.
Right. I was more. Why was she so in love with?
Yes, and why was everybody swooning over
with Ashley? Ashley.
I mean, I think that Vivian Leigh is very beautiful, but obviously this explains why the obvious alcoholic Rhett Butler cannot leave her alone. She's a free source of alcohol.
But if you want to go with that, and we can talk a little bit about with the beer flavored nipples, that's perfect. Yes. But
I know you don't know this, but the phrase "I tap that" is actually from the book.
Oh, yes. The book, yes. It originated from Gone with the Wind.
From the 1935 book.
And all of her sisters and other women that are around him are beautiful women. So, like, it's not like she was anything, that stood out. Like, she was just, okay. I don't know. That was the one thing other than that, like, everything you've said, I agree. Wizard of Oz, fun, whimsical, good time. It takes you down the dream trip world, and the ending is a terrible message. And other than that, sit back and relax and, I don't know, drink some hard liquor and you'll enjoy it. Don't watch Gone with the Wind.
And to its credit, it's only hateful against short people, old women, ugly people, and
everybody,
people, cowardly people, but not an entire race.
The end messages, I will agree with Tom, are very short-sighted, but I do also agree that it is a time-based period, and there were mentalities that are different than what they are today about self-worth.
Whoa! I'm sorry.
What?
There's a huge amount of hypocrisy happening right now. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, Wizard of Oz, it's a product of its time," and it's like that. It's like Gone with the Wind. How did they not know that this was bad? Like, it was also a product of the time.
It was 100%. I didn't say that. I agree 100%. It was a story about the Confederacy, and it was told from that perspective 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just saying
you're probably attributing to what I said. I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lumping you all together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, as usual.
I'm my own person, Tom.
I had my sights on
Wizard of Oz?
I had my sights on you ever since you started bad trash and bad mouth and Gone with the Wind before it even started. So.
All right, let's put it to a vote. We'll start with Tom.
Gone with the Wind.
Gabe.
Wizard of Oz.
Andrew.
Wizard of Oz.
All right. And Kyle.
I will make a donation to the NAACP, but I am voting for Gone with the Wind.
All right.
Well done, sir. Well done.
14 writers worked on the script for The Wizard of Oz in various capacities. At one point, the script had a Duke and Princess of Oz, a son of the Wicked Witch, a rescue from the wizard's balloon by Munchkin Fire Department, and a song and dance quote-unquote jitterbug scene that was filmed but cut from the final movie. Gone with the Wind.
How tall were the ladders for the Munchkin Fire Department? I just want to
don't know. Ask Tom.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Shots fired.
Shots fired.
Don't worry, Mike. They went way over his head.
Oh.
No, God.
He just left. He left.
He's gone.
That's it. He had to say now he's gone.
Gone with the Wind
Got a
script.
short fuse.
Gone with the Tom.
Gone with the Wind script changed almost daily, and the cast did not receive a final version of the script until after the film was completed. Multiple writers worked on the script, including F. Scott Fitzgerald, who was quickly fired. Let's move on to our second round. Acting.
Well, I really like the performances in Wizard of Oz, honestly. I think there's some really good physical performances in Wizard of Oz, facial performances, and vocal performances in Wizard of Oz. I overall enjoy the performances from almost all of the characters. I think there's just little things too, like the Scarecrow. When they're skipping down the yellow brick road, every once in a while he kind of stumbles. And that stays consistent throughout. He's always kind of stumbling, and the Tin Man is fun to watch, especially when he's doing his little dance after they've, oil up his hinges and that kind of thing. It's fun to watch him do his dance, and I just think there are really good performances, especially in the Oz sequence of it. I think the performances in Gone with the Wind overall are pretty good. But I don't know. I feel like even for both of these films that we're still kind of in a transitional stage between stage acting and film acting. And a lot of the stuff in Gone with the Wind seemed very dialogue driven and very kind of stage acting to me at most of the time. It still felt like melodramatic and a little over the top, and it didn't have some of the subtleties that we might attribute to more modern films. I mean, the performances are really good. I mean, I guess if their goal was to really hate Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler, they really did a good job of accomplishing that, because they were just not they were not likable characters, but the performances were good, beautiful people throughout the whole movie. And it's interesting to me, and maybe we'll talk about this later, that Hattie McDaniel won the best Oscar, or the best actress in a supporting role. Sorry.
Easy there. But yeah, she did.
Yeah. Sorry, I misspoke. It's interesting to me too, because I'm glad she did, but I didn't really feel like she had that strong of a performance, and didn't have that much screen time. So I didn't. After watching it, I didn't quite understand why, but maybe I'm just completely wrong. Maybe you guys can kind of explain that or give me your opinion on it. But I think actually both films have good performances. I just thought Gone with the Wind was a little bit more stage acting like to me.
See, I would say that both of them are overly stagey and very much evident that they are in that transition of figuring out how to do movie versus just filming a stage play. And
yeah,
I mean, both Wizard of Oz is very strongly looks like a stage play. I would say that the realest part of the film, and even then there are some breaks, is when they're in Kansas. Like the whole time they're in Oz, it feels like it's just a big, huge production on stage. So I would say that the one good thing about Gone with the Wind is at least it has quite a few realistic things where they're actually shooting a movie, and it's not just all on a soundstage feel to it, and or in a stagey kind of environment. But I digress. We can get into that in directing too. But yeah, I mean the acting in both, like, I mean, Vivian does a fantastic. She's a great actress, and Clark Gable, great actor. I would say that for their performances, for what they accomplished, I think they did a really good job. We all ended up hating Scarlett O'Hara, and if that was the goal, she did a damn good job at it. Like her ability to encompass that person where you walked away from the film and like, I think she's a detestable woman. I wouldn't want to be with her. If that was the goal, she's fantastic. She did a great job with that character. And, I think that says a lot about her ability to act, because, sometimes being able to be unlikable when you're a likable real life person, it's hard for some actors. And so I would say, Clark Gable, I wouldn't say is a detestable actor or even character player. Like a lot of his characters that he's played in other movies were not detestable characters. And so to be able to pull that off, I think that says a lot. There is one thing I was thinking of, which we don't have to necessarily answer right now or even in this round, or maybe at all. I was thinking of, like, if they were to remake On with the Wind, who they could get to play some of these characters. Just based on some of the acting and just reminded me of different people. But alas, with Wizard of Oz, you've got Judy Garland, who at a very young age was thrust into this acting thing. And I don't know, Mike might have trivia on some of the terrible things that potentially happened to poor Judy and some of the other actors that were on set. But it turns out that it potentially was not a great environment, but she became the girl that everybody loved. That she came into the home and everybody was like, oh, it's Judy Garland and it's this Dorothy character, and everyone fell in love with her. And it was what they were, going for with these kind of crazy characters. And you have other actors, the Tin Men and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion, which, some of them were classically trained and they were real, off Broadway actors and things like that, that it just added to this big fantastical stageness. And then you have the music and the performance, and I just think that really added to it. They were fantastic at what they did in making that kind of whimsical performance. Yeah.
So the idea of stage acting and that transition, right? You see that a lot around this time period. But I think when you do a movie that involves a lot of singing and dancing, it's a lot less obvious because that already is a big performative to audience sort of acting style. So it feels more natural and less jarring when you have singing and dancing numbers. The theatricality of it makes more sense. There's not a lot of naturalistic acting going on in either of these movies like we would see today. And I think we've talked about before, acting has come a long way. I think in general, I would find it hard to argue that acting has not gotten better over the last, almost 100 years or so in general. But there are a lot of movies on Tubi and Crackle and stuff that are dragging that down. But I just think the craft of acting, has gotten much better. I found Judy Garland to be very likable and charismatic. Her musical numbers are entrancing. She has a great voice. She holds your attention. You talked about some of the dancing and physicality. That stuff looks great and plays really well in this whimsical world. We can talk about how great the acting of some of the supporting characters are. But some of that's hit or miss. But I think in general, the main cast of Wizard of Oz does a great job because they're basically bringing what feels like a singing, dancing fantasy number to life on screen. And they all are very proficient at that and have great physicality and musical chops. And it just looks and feels great. And I know we talked about music and overall, and that will be, I'm sure, a hot topic for especially for Wizard of Oz. Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable is incredibly charismatic. I wish he had a slightly better voice. I feel like his voice doesn't quite match his looks. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Yeah, if the idea is that it's hard for me to understand if the idea is that we're supposed to despise Scarlett O'Hara because the movie is very pro her side of the story and she is presented as the protagonist. So it's hard for me to think that they're trying to present her in that way. There was an opportunity in this movie to portray the South as sort of backwards and out of touch and stuff like that. And they chose not to do that for whatever reason. But a lot of the acting was pretty good. A lot of the side characters, I would say, like the sisters, some of the forced labor workers, we'll say, so we don't get, Google AI doesn't grab us. Some of the people, like the gentleman callers, they're really kind of bad. I thought Vivian Leigh gave a great performance as Scarlett O'Hara, but she is, if her direction was to be liked and be a protagonist and have people root for you, then between her and the director, they utterly failed that mission. But Clark Gable, I thought was great. I don't know the name of the actress who played Ashley's wife. I can't remember her name. I want to say Marion, but I don't think that's right. She looked like Donna Reed to me. What is it?
Olivia de Havilland.
Okay, yeah. She kind of reminded me of like a Donna Reed type, and I thought she was okay, but she basically plays sick for most of the movie. And I thought the dad was particularly bad, who played the uncle from in Uncle Billy in It's a Wonderful Life. It's very hit or miss. I think some of the performances are pretty good. Some of them are pretty bad. I think you get away with a lot more in The Wizard of Oz because of the nature of it, because you cast people with musical and theatrical chops, right? So it fits more. I don't know. I think if you did Gone with the Wind today, you'd get much better performances and much better actors, but I don't think you could make a movie with that tone unless you wanted Scarlett O'Hara to be a despised character telling that story.
Yeah, it almost seems like it would be a better story if it was rather than, her struggling against the Yankees and what they're doing, but just like, God dang it, I'm in the South and I've got to like overcome this bigotry and ignorance, but 1939, what are you going to do? What you guys said too about this, like seeing the theatricality working into Gone with the Wind and the way they deliver the lines. I mean, it even has an intermission, and it even's broken down into two very distinct acts, just like a play. And that kind of struck me right at the beginning of it. I thought that I really liked the character of Rhett Butler, and I thought Clark Gable did a really great job with it, and I found him very charismatic and charming, and I think that's what kind of, like, when he got to the crossroads and he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go join the war. I liked his whole, I don't really give a shit which side wins, I'm in this for the money, that that Lando Calrissian Han Solo appealed to him, because even Han Solo had picked a side, but for him to just be like, I don't really, I'm in this for the money, and for him to just decide that he's gonna pick up and join the South, join the fight, the Confederacy, that was like the one problem I had with him the entire time. I think the movie was always at its best when he was on screen. I think like the whole time he wasn't on the screen, I was just like, when are we getting back to Rhett? Because the movie snapped better, and he and Vivian Leigh had really, really great chemistry. So I disagree with everything you guys said about the acting in Wizard of Oz. I think there's some really good comedic performances in it. They have some really good physicality, but I think I don't know. I don't like musicals, and this was not an exception to that. I don't know. It seemed very hammy and cheesy, and I just wanted to grill the whole thing. Honestly, the best actor in The Wizard of Oz is the dog, and I can't believe no one's mentioned Toto yet.
Yes,
Toto.
I was going to.
I'm sorry.
Toto's my favorite.
Fucking amazing in that movie.
Yes.
Like, he's so good. Like climbing rocks
true.
And like, hey, we're gonna skip down the road. You just stayed, 6 inches behind us, and we're good. So, I thought Toto Toto was the best. The best performance in Wizard of Oz was the dog. But yes, some of the choreography. There's one part where Scarecrow and Tin Man and Dorothy, they're skipping down the yellow brick road, and the camera stays, and they kind of skip off down into the distance, and they're doing like this kind of like 3-count double skip step, and it's really good choreography, and they're wearing these very clunky costumes and trying to do this, and it looked really simple and elegant, but the steps, I'm sure, for them were very complicated and difficult to pull off, and so I do appreciate that. So I appreciate dance, but I hate musicals. What are you gonna do? Yeah, that's it. So yeah, for me, it comes down between Clark Gable and the dog. I have to figure out which one I like more.
They're both very charismatic.
I love when the ones on the. Why didn't we do Turner and Hooch with Clark Gable and Toto?
Oh, what a good movie!
Wow.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Gabe.
This one is closer for me. I really liked the physical performances and the dancing and singing in Wizard of Oz. So I'm going to have to go with Wizard of Oz.
All right. Andrew.
Wizard of Oz.
Kyle.
Well, now Tom's got me deciding between an alcoholic war profiteer and a dog that attacks women and cats. As I'm kind of torn now. I'm going to go with the Wizard of Oz.
All right.
He went with the dog.
Tom.
Yeah, I can't blame Toto for attacking people because it's written in the script. He was just doing his job. And Clark Gable decided to pick up a gun 2/3 of the way through the movie because it's in the script. So I can't really blame them. We dealt with that back in writing. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Clark Gable because I enjoyed Gone with the Wind like 10 times more than I thought I was going to. I was dreading watching this movie, and I actually came away liking it, and he was a large part of that.
All right. The fact that Hattie McDaniel would be unable to attend the premiere in racially segregated Atlanta outraged Clark Gable so much that he threatened to boycott the premiere unless she could attend. He later relented when she convinced him to go. For her performance, She would be the first African American to be nominated and win an Oscar. The Munchkins.
Yeah, see, does anybody want to change their vote? No?
The
outcome
Munchkins
does not change my enjoyability of said movie.
I think Clark Gable owned it. Way to stand up guy.
are portrayed by the singer midgets, named not for their musical abilities, but for Leo Singer, their manager. The troupe came from Europe. Many of them were Jewish, and a number of them took advantage of the trip to stay in the U.S. in order to escape the Nazis. Professional singers dubbed most of their voices, as many of... Now, this is where I come into the issue. I don't know if they prefer little people, midgets, but they have midgets down here, so I'm going to say that.
I think it's little people.
As many of the little people couldn't speak English and or sing well. Only 2 are heard speaking with their real-life voices, the ones who give Dorothy flowers after she has climbed into the carriage.
Oh.
All right. Third round, directing.
God, that bell is loud. Yeah, so that's me. So let's talk about some directing.
Is the bell a little loud? Sorry.
Nah, that's all right. It doesn't bother me now. Yeah, let's talk about some directing. So we'll start with Gone with the Wind. And some of the things that I'll say actually kind of transpose to The Wizard of Oz, partially because, you know, you have a very similar director, a.k.a. Victor Fleming, did both. But he did have help. However, I want to say that there are some fantastical shots in Gone with the Wind. There are just some epic, beautiful, beautiful shots. And what I would say is probably one of the most surprising things about it is there are a lot of matte paintings in Gone with the Wind. And they weren't used as any kind of, well, we didn't have this. Most of them were used as what we would consider set extensions to this day, where you shoot something and then you just add on to it to make it seem more big or add those things over there that weren't really there. And it's just remarkable how good those matte paintings stand up to what we would traditionally see in movies right now. And he did such a fantastic job of just getting these wide, beautiful, epic shots. And then as the action came, he would slowly move his way in back to the characters and then be very poignant about being in the middle of the situations. There was never really any really wide, big medium shots of characters talking all at once. He was always right in there, right in the action, right in people's faces. So you felt like you were a part of the conversation. And I feel that is maybe a skill or an artistic decision that isn't quite as popular it is back then than it is today. You don't really get a lot of those kind of films where they just get in there with the characters all the time. And that, to me, just brings the viewer closer to what is actually happening, bring you into the action per se. And I mean, from the matte shots to a lot of the what we would consider visual effects with, you know, explosions and all the other things that went on, it was quite incredible. I mean, even when Bobby, their daughter, goes off of the horse, like, I mean, that was an incredible shot. They did a really good job of cutting over to the double and the horse, and I'm sure it was actually a real horse and just a fake child, because back then they probably didn't care about the horse as much as they would today. But I mean, that entire sequence, it's flawless. It's really seamless, and it done very, very well. Even when he goes and picks her up, they hide the cut really well of when he picks her up, and then they cut and he's holding her for real again. It's really neat to see some of these old traditional visual effects that, you know, the director did pull off when doing some of this stuff. Even, you know, burning down Tate, like, they didn't really burn it down, just in case anybody wanted to know. And that, to me, like, think of the time, guys. Like, this is the 30s. This is insane, the stuff that they pulled off in this movie. And for me, having the director have this vision and be able to do that is just, that to me is incredible. And then on top of that, he's not only filming Gone with the Wind, but Wizard of Oz, and they're pretty much, you know, side by side to be able to be released. I think they were like 6 months off, if I remember, in the shooting and the post-production and everything, so that way they could be roughly released at the same time, or at least at the same year. So some of the really cool things with Wizard of Oz. Very whimsical, brought lots of color and magic and all this, you know, you felt like you were in this weird dream and all this weird stuff that was going on. And once again, really awesome techniques being used. Lots of matte paintings. Some unfortunate ones. For instance, the snow was asbestos, which I found to be very interesting while they're in the poppy field. But, you know, lots of really cool effects and techniques that they use to really get things, you know, moving, even from the Tin Man, like his makeup and the way that his oil can was, I believe it's chocolate syrup. You know, they did all these really cool tricks that you wouldn't necessarily think of. A lot of stuff would be CG nowadays. So it's really neat to see that they were just so amazing. And of course, the big one, the $1 million one, is the switch from black and white to color was such a big deal back then. And, you know, he shot the sepia tone stuff and then they switch into color. And I don't want to take Mike's trivia if he knows. If are you going to do any trivia on the transition?
I am not.
Okay. So really cool thing is when they transition from her house to Oz, when she opens the door, that was actually a set that was painted sepia color. And it was Judy Garland's stunt double dressed in a sepia tone dress that walks up and actually opens the door, revealing the color. He pushes through and then the real Judy Garland walks through. Like stuff like that, to be able to have that mindset is just so awesome, especially at that time, to be able to pull that kind of trick off that people just don't even think about. So really interesting. I also noted that the first 5 days of shooting, I think it was 5 days, it may have been a week, was Dorothy in a blonde wig with baby doll makeup, and she was overacting everything. And that's the way they originally wanted the character. And they made a decision that that wasn't the right direction to go. And they went back and reshot everything with her being, they told Judy Garland just to be herself. And so very different, interesting outcome. And then, of course, how did they shoot the color, which I find super fascinating because it was a giant camera, actually 3 that were shooting black and white, and each one had a filter on it. And then at the post-processing, they would merge all the films together. So they didn't shoot one big camera with color. Like, this director, Victor, had his mind in places that other people weren't doing, to be able to, from Gone with the Wind to Wizard of, like, he to me is a visionary when it comes to directing. He just has these ideas. He figures out how to execute them. And, you know, props to a lot of the talent that figured out a lot of these effects, and to be able to get that kind of vision, painting things, explosions, things like that. So I think he is an amazing director in that sense. Unfortunately, he happened to do Gone with the Wind.
I think I think both of them are really great. I'm always curious, like, is the first part of Wizard of Oz technically color then, because it's sepia? I mean, it's not really black and white. There is a very much a brown tone to it. So it's almost as if it's color to begin with.
It was shot the same way, and at the very end of the process, they actually tinted it sepia. And so that's why it looks a little bit different. It's not actually shot in sepia.
Oh, all right. Well, good to know that. I love the crane shot in Gone with the Wind at the car shed with the soldiers. I'm sure some of them are out there are dummies, but holy cow, what an amazing shot that just keeps going.
I have trivia for that.
Oh, good.
I won't say anything.
Oh, well, then I'll just shut my fucking mouth. So, like Andrew said, the cinematography in Gone with the Wind is really amazing. Great camera movements. I mean, Victor Fleming adopted the dolly very early on, and it made a much more dynamic movie. And they were able to just kind of get the audience in on shots. Composition on Gone with the Wind I thought was kind of so-so. There's some shots where I was like, I don't know, I'd probably lower that shot a little bit. What the fuck do I know? I haven't won an Oscar. And then I talked about the sepia thing. The witch vanishing effect was really good. I'm sure it was a trap door with the smoke, but I mean, it was so well timed. I don't know how many times they had to do it, but that dazzled me. And a lot of Wizard of Oz dazzled me. I mean, the makeup and the costumes and the set design. I mean, they just and it's almost like they said no. They didn't say no to anything, you know. But part of me can't help but wonder, like, how many people got cancer from the stuff they were using, like the paints and the makeup and stuff. There's some people probably died indirectly because of Wizard of Oz. But
snow was asbestos in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I love how the poppies were poisoning them, and Glinda was like, "Hey, Wicked Witch, hold my beer. I'm gonna drop some asbestos on them." But yeah, I think I just even watching it now in HD, the Wizard of Oz. I mean, there's some plasticness to it, but I don't know, man. The production design team they went nuts, and I loved it.
But with Gone with the Wind, I mean, you were saying iconic shots. Like, think of the shots of that were silhouetted against like the sunsets. The sunset, and that. I mean, those are iconic shots in film history. Because of Gone with the Wind, that silhouetted look and that way that they shot that, like those are incredible, and we know it for that. As much as we know the line in Gone with the Wind, we know those scenes. We know that vision, that look.
We know, and we know them. But I will tell you, I do think that these two movies are starting to fade. I think the Confederacy thing really hurts Gone with the Wind. I don't think people are going to be watching Gone with the Wind nearly as much in 50 years. And The Wizard of Oz was on TV every August until 1991, and it was a very much a part of my childhood until I was 16. And now you're getting into a point where there's a lot of 20-year-olds that never saw Wizard of Oz, where we saw it 15 times before we got into high school. So I think there's
I feel like a rebirth of that's going to happen with Wicked being released. Really do.
It might, and I love Wicked. I think it's a really great play. It answers a lot of the questions I have about this, but I don't know. It's just it's not in front of people's eyes anymore. So
yeah, we need a musical about the Confederacy to drum up interest. Gone with the Wind again.
Drum up interest.
Well, I would argue that we're seeing a lot of this in the American politics, but we won't get in there. So, all right, yeah,
it would be the worst musical ever.
Yeah. I don't know what they're called. I know they're called Yankees. Like, did they have a name?
The Confederates?
Yeah,
Heroes,
Rebels.
Heroes.
Rebels.
Did they call themselves Rebels though, or is that what the other people called? Well, I guess they called the other people Yankees.
Confederates.
Yes. It was the Union and the Confederate, and then
neither here nor there. They were big into states' rights. We can just leave it there. Yeah, I totally agree with Tom about that last point. I've seen Wizard of Oz probably 15, 20 times in my life because it was on all the time. This is my first viewing of Gone with the Wind. I've never seen it before in my life. It is overly long and repetitive and has a terrible antagonist. And but it is beautiful and a hell of an accomplishment. You can't take that away from it. No matter how divisive the subject matter, what you think of the characters and some of the acting and choices that the people make, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous film. and one hell of a technical achievement for its time. The lighting is great. The color is great. One of the things I notice is sometimes when they overlay shots, they don't get the opacity quite right, and it looks like ghosts are riding down the road instead of men on horseback, or some of the fire shots when they're combining things like that. It doesn't look right. Yeah, but it's obviously very much in its infancy there. I give them a lot of credit for trying that stuff. When we're talking about, the scene with the stunt double and then going into a set with color, that's a brilliant, inventive, out of the box idea. And great filmmakers are great problem solvers. They have an idea and they're like, how can I make this happen, this thing in my head? And then they work it out how to do it. And that's a great example of that. They figure out, like, this is my vision for this, but I can't like have her have a gray hand and a gray dress and then strip it off, and we don't have the technology to CGI this or cut it. I know, let's do this and this. I watched both of these on Max, so I'm not sure how remastered or upscaled they are. Wizard of Oz was bright and poppy and full of color, very lively, beautiful, just beautiful to behold. And there's something about these old color films shot on film, that they have a very different, almost like a porcelain look, or that different color, richness to what we see now. Everybody shoots in digital, or even if you shoot on film now, that I find very like endearing. Maybe it's sort of nostalgia and looking back, but I think both these movies, kudos to the director and the production teams that put these things together, because they are achievements. They're amazing achievements in the history of film.
Yeah, and I agree completely on all of the cinematography points. The cinematography in both is just gorgeous. Different from each other, but both equally beautiful. I think one thing we didn't touch on is that both of these films featured additional directors. And I don't really know the story behind that or why that happened, but I also wonder what impact that has and why Victor Fleming ended up being the final director. I'll wait because Mike is pointing to himself saying he's got trivia on that. So I look forward to that. I am. Yes, I look forward to that trivia because I don't know exactly why that happened, but it's an interesting thing. And but it's a real achievement to have two films nominated for Academy Awards in the same year from the same director. Now, he wasn't nominated as Best Director for both, but very interesting. And so I think that says something about that achievement, to be able to make two outstanding films in the same year. Just incredible.
It is. It actually is. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Gabe, but I do have a list of
I don't know.
So of what went through. But to make a correction for you, Andrew, I've got a picture with me with the camera that they used on the Wizard of Oz and the Smithsonian, and it's actually not three cameras; it's one camera. It just used three different rolls of film
with filter on each. Lens, right?
Filter on each lens. Yep.
It was like three cameras put together.
Correct, and it is massive.
It's huge,
absolutely massive.
But it's basically three cameras. They're just one in big box.
Right, one giant box.
Yeah.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Andrew, we'll start off with you.
Wizard of Oz.
Kyle?
Oh, gee, I don't know, mister. I think I'll take the Wizard of Oz.
Wow. Tom?
Boy, I'm really on the fence with this one. Yeah, I'm just the scene design and costumes and everything. I'm gonna have to give it to Wizard of Oz.
All right, and Gabe.
Yeah, like Tom, I'm on the fence. I'm going to give my vote to Gone with the Wind this time.
Oh, all right. You turned left when I thought you were turning right. So, as mentioned before, there were many directors on both these films, actually. The Wizard of Oz had 5 different directors. Richard Thorpe shot several weeks of material, none of which appears in the final film. The studio found his work unsatisfactory and appointed George Cukor temporarily. Cukor did not actually, did not actually film any scenes. He merely modified Julie Garland's and Ray Bolger's makeup, like Andrew had stated earlier. Victor Fleming took over from him and filmed the bulk of the movie until he was assigned to Gone with the Wind. King Vidor filmed the remaining sequences, mainly the black and white parts of the film set in Kansas, the storm, and Over the Rainbow. Producer Mervyn Leroy also directed some transitional scenes.
We didn't even talk about the storm. It was
amazing.
It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
You know what's cool about that storm? It was shot live. That was not a plate. It was not animation. That was not drawn. The tornado was shot live on set while they did that scene.
The what now?
The storm.
They actually produced a tornado in the studio?
They originally built a huge rubber tornado and they thought it looked really tacky, and some guy had an idea of grabbing a big, huge, long cylinder of muslin and they wrapped it up, and they took a stick and a leaf blower and threw a bunch of crap down basically.
Jesus.
And they moved it.
I thought the cast and crew were driving around Kansas waiting for a tornado. The way you worded it, I was just like,
But again, that's amazing to me. That's amazing. They shot that live.
Yeah.
Legend has
it Mike.
that 3 directors handled Gone with the Wind's production chores. In fact, as many as 8 directors were used to complete the massive job. George Cukor and Victor Fleming were the full production directors, with Sam Wood and Chester M. Franklin filling in for Fleming during his convalescence. Production designer William Cameron Menzies handled some studio scenes of Scarlett's hairy journey back to Tara during the war. B. Reeves Eason handled the tricky stunt scenes of Bonnie's fatal pony ride. Yakima Kanat directed some stunt work, and even David O. Selznick himself, a very hands-on producer, handled some direction. Considering the amount of second unit shots needed, there could be a few more directors' work who will remain uncredited.
That's insane.
Lost to history, lost to time.
Just the number of people that helped direct it, that's just insane.
It's crazy. And the fact, I mean, one of the other reasons why we chose these, not only 39, but I mean, the overlap with the directors is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's insane. And, you know, a lot of times when you have situations like that where they change directors partway through a film,
it suffers.
You know, even just badly. If they change writers, they change directors, the film usually suffers very badly from that, and you can kind of tell.
You can tell. It's obvious.
So to answer your question,
in these, I don't think they suffered that much.
To answer your question, Gabe, Cukor was fired from Gone with the Wind because Selznick did not really get along with him and didn't like him. And that's why he brought in Fleming. But there's been a rumor that Clark Gable didn't like him, but that has since been reputed. And
didn't
also,
like who, Fleming or
Cukor?
Oh, okay.
And there is also a rumor that one of the reasons Selznick and some of the others wanted him off and not directing was because of homosexuality, which still back then, look, we're we're making a film about the South, but also, you know, you have all these other horrible things that are happening too. Was that there was a rumor that he was perhaps gay, and they didn't want that on set, which is absolutely ridiculous to me.
To be fair, I mean, if you have 8 directors, the chances are pretty good.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean,
1 out of 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like,
and you think maybe that contributed to some of the production design of Wizard of Oz or something. I don't know.
So here's the crazy thing. I mentioned earlier that it had so many writers. So when Fleming took over, Cooker had pretty much done the first half of the film. The second half was Fleming. Fleming did not have a script. Instead, Selznick and someone else would essentially tell him the story, and he would direct that way for the scenes. It is absolutely insane. And I'll say this, and we'll get back on track. Look up all the trivia for both of these films. It's insane.
Yeah, how did these things not completely fall apart?
Right.
Yeah, this is what I was going to. The fact that we got coherent movies is incredible to me.
Best picture winner.
Yes.
All-time classic movies that just about everybody knows, except Tom is noticing that that's fading. But I mean, they are all-time classics, and
they are.
The fact that they even got finished is a miracle.
Correct.
And now, look, I'm not taking anything from what Victor Fleming did with these two movies. I do think it's interesting he did these two, and there was not a huge movie lead up to it, and he didn't do another huge movie after it. In fact, he was dead within 10 years. So, I mean, it's
the asbestos.
Yeah,
I mean, the asbestos snow.
yeah, or the lead in the paint,
or the lead,
right.
Or the smoking. Like, there's a lot of
could be the explosions on set. We don't know.
Yeah. That red smoke that Linda, the witch disappears into. Like, come on, that's got to be carcinogenic.
Well, and the witch. The witch's stunt double was badly injured from one of the smoke machines malfunctioning at one take. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the fourth and final round.
Different time.
Overall.
All right. We've spoken about a lot of aspects of these movies, but let's get into the stuff that doesn't necessarily fit into any other category. I don't want it to dominate everything, but I definitely think we should talk about music. Gone with the Wind has, sort of a overarching score and some nice musical pieces. I wouldn't say that it has anything that stands out to me. Like, I'm not familiar with like a main theme or something that repeats. It doesn't stick in my head or anything like that. It was mostly sort of forgettable, but I did enjoy the old-timey movie feel of having almost like a I don't know what you call it, the preamble to the movie where they're playing over a black screen. I like that sort of presentation. And of course the movie has like an interlude, and it's very old fashioned, and I do kind of enjoy that production event style movie. I think we saw that also when we watched like Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia. I think those movies have similar things in them because they're so long. So let's talk about the length real quick before we dive back into the music. Gone with the Wind, 3 hours and 41 minutes. I believe for a movie of its quality, that's still far too long. And when I say quality, I don't mean great characters. I just mean as an achievement, as a grand epic tale, as something that's like, important in the history of Hollywood. Still far too long. 4 hours for a movie is way too much. In my opinion, that may be another reason other than its subject matter. You'll never get kids to watch it now. I mean, some TikTok videos have a split screen where there's like a car going down a ramp and over jumps to keep your attention while the TikTok's playing. That's how short attention spans have gotten. But now and I think at like an hour 45 felt just about right for Wizard of Oz. Probably could have cut little bits in here, made a tiny bit shorter, but doesn't really overstay its welcome. Feels about right. The music now for Wizard of Oz. I mean, hard to think of a movie with more quotable, memorable, famous songs that came out of it. Of course, If I Only Had a Brain, or Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm sure there are many more, and I'm just not thinking about right now. But those two songs alone are, like movie song history, like mainstays. Like Over the Rainbow is an enduring song. It's been around since, I don't know, if it was written for this movie or if it had come from, but we still hear people do covers of that song almost 100 years later, and it still is a very incredibly catchy, moving, sweet song with a lot of emotion, and I think it's great. And having it sung by Judy Garland makes it so much more powerful and memorable. She has such a wonderful voice and stage presence and such a sweetness to the song, and like a bittersweet quality that I really enjoyed. We've talked about the kind of production mess that these movies were being made. I think it's to its credit that they came out more or less coherent. Usually when you hear stuff like that, that is the death knell to a movie. If it's gone through multiple directors and multiple writers, like I think there was a long time I had a running joke, the more writers on a script, the worse the quality of the movie. Just because that almost never ties together and becomes coherent. It becomes a jumbled mess. But maybe credit to the producers who held these things together and kept the vision singular. I think they did a good job in that way. Rewatchability, I think we talk about a lot. Hard to think about ever watching Gone with the Wind again. I've seen Wizard of Oz so many times, but I could see myself, if it was on TV and a musical number I like or a scene that I'm interested is on, I would definitely sit down and watch it. So it is catchy in that way. And I think both these movies have, legacies in the story of Hollywood, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and to touch on the music just a little bit more, Over the Rainbow won Best Original Song that year, and then the whole score won Best Score for Wizard of Oz. But Gone with the Wind was also nominated in the Best Score category. So, I think they both had really strong music. And Kyle, maybe you didn't recognize the theme from Gone with the Wind, but to me, that's also a very iconic theme. And maybe it's because my mom loves that movie so much. And I'm sure I had been subjected to it directly or indirectly many times over the years. So I'm sure I recall that music. I wanted to also mention a scene that took me completely out of the movie, and I just started laughing my ass off because it was performed better by someone else. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the skit where Carol Burnett pretends to be Scarlett O'Hara, and she takes the drapes. She takes the drapes off the wall because Rhett Butler is there. Yes, but she leaves the curtain rod in. Like there's still a rod in it, and she's trying to act all casual with it. And oh my God, that is one of the funniest scenes I think I have ever seen. And I didn't realize when I saw the Carol Burnett one, because that was more contemporary to me, that it was actually based on the movie. I didn't remember that Scarlett O'Hara actually takes the drapes and turns them into a dress. And I almost couldn't contain myself during that scene. I mean, I was kind of laughing because I thought of Carol Burnett. And I don't know. But see, it obviously has, Gone with the Wind has had an impact on pop culture since it was made, and how many times have we heard these iconic lines from it, and but I just wanted to mention that I totally got taken out of Gone with the Wind when I saw that scene, because I was like, oh my God, Carol Burnett was so funny. So
Carol Burnett was the SNL of her time.
Yeah, you can't watch those without like
taking stuff from pop culture and turning it into something funny.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And you can't watch Carol Burnett without like cracking up because they're all cracking up, and then it makes you laugh, and it. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
I think Max. I thought Max Steiner's score in Gone with the Wind was amazing, and I I really liked it. It was one of the pluses that I gave the movie, and the guy worked like crazy. I mean, between like 39 and 44, I mean, he did Casablanca. He did like 50 films in 5 years, which is just insane to me. I think that there's some weird things, some other weird things. Like, I think it's weird that the Wizard of Oz considers a hot air balloon as a quick getaway. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever considered. He's like, hell, I held on the hot air balloon in case I needed a quick getaway. Like, you need to fill it up, you know that, right? And it's like, you can't hide it while you're filling it up. Like, I might need to get out of here in the next 3 days. So start heating up the hot air balloon.
Missed a chance for comedy there. The 45 minutes of them trying to get the balloon off the ground.
I think there's another story too with like what happens to Oz when you have the Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man running the place after everyone leaves. Like, I can't imagine that goes well. I don't know. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this podcast. I like that we watch good movies once in a while, and getting to be able to sit down and watch these two movies critically and look at them. I've like appreciate them in a whole new way. And I mean, Gone with the Wind went way up in my estimation. No, it didn't with you guys, but it went way up in my estimation and what I thought of it. But the other question I have, so at the end of Wizard of Oz, she's like, "There's no place like home." Roll credits. Toto still dies, right? Like she's like, "There's no place like home," and it's like, oh yeah, right. I forgot. Toto's gonna die.
Right.
She's coming back for the dog.
At the end of the credits, there's just a shotgun noise.
Yeah, I hear the sheriff's sirens, and then a couple barks and cries, and then a shotgun out.
Yeah.
Old Yella.
Yeah.
Old Yella. Old Yella.
Well, you know, I wanted to, in relation to the music too, and Judy Garland's performance, I wanted to give Toto a shout out for his performance during that sequence where she sang over the rainbow. Mm-hmm. He was quite good. Well behaved dog.
And I'm guessing it was before they had like 7 dogs on set that all looked the same.
Yeah.
No,
well, whenever I see good old dog acting, I'm like, is that dog really well trained, or is he just on Quaaludes?
It was just one dog.
And just so you know,
one dog.
Toto's real name was Terry, and Terry was a girl.
Oh,
was it really just one dog for the entire movie?
Yes.
Oh, that I was trying to delude myself, but that's cool. All right, great. Go Terry.
Go Terry.
Good performance.
Yeah, he wasn't rough at all.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
you know, in regards to
he didn't do it with enough.
It's not a show if we don't have
Tom.
that sound once. Yeah.
He wasn't rough at all.
And then, you know, Tom, you were talking about the ending and how, you know, they may come back for Toto, and she's like, "No place like home," but it's all like dreary sepia tone at home too. That didn't seem very appealing. Like, I don't want to live in this dull gray place.
That's Kansas, right?
Right. Well, but also you got to remember that's Kansas during the Great Depression.
True.
I mean, again, we've plenty of times talked about how Hollywood portrays Midwest and small towns and things like that, and you know, it just gives you that small town Kansas feel. I'm not saying that's what Kansas is like, but that's definitely the portrayal that comes across. And it started, you know, it wasn't a thing just today or in the last 10, 15 years. It's been that way for over 100 years.
Well,
I'm glad you mentioned. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say so that she gets, the tornado picks the house up and then she gets knocked out, like starting the dream. So I assume there's a point where Annie M is like, I got good news and I got bad news. The house is still standing. That's the good news. The bad news is now we're in Oklahoma.
And thus the prequel of Twister.
Maybe they found oil. Thanks for bringing up that it's during the Great Depression. There is a high likelihood they had to eat Toto before he was shot.
Not
No, they had
before he
some
was
pigs.
shot. They shot him, then ate him.
And
Yeah,
chickens.
they shot him and then ate him. Yeah.
Oh, you think? Oh, do you think I had it the wrong way? They ate him and then they shot what was left. Just blow all his bones and gristle apart.
That dog ain't gonna bite anyone no more.
Man bites dog. Oh.
You know, Tom, they made a prequel to, how the great and wonderful Wizard of Oz started out.
Oh,
Are you
that's
talking
okay.
about The Wiz?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah, it's
that's
with
okay.
Franco.
Yeah, James Franco's in it.
James Franco is the wonderful. It's just called the wonderful, or just called the Wizard of Oz, or the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but
does it explain why the land and the wizard is named Oz?
It doesn't. It does not.
I took off from Omaha in a hot air balloon, and I landed in a city named just like me.
So that's why it reminded me of that, because in the movie he flies into Oz in his hot air balloon. Because it gets caught up in a tornado and takes the balloon to Oz.
The only
You
way
should
he's
really
out of
see
Oz.
this.
Oz
So he
the
landed-
Great.
Tornado and shoes.
Oz
Oh,
the
Oz
Great
the
and
Great
Powerful.
Yeah.
Oz and Great Powerful. That's
So
it.
the guy landed, and they're like, "You're in the land of Oz." He's like, "What a coincidence! That's my name too.
And I'm a wizard.
My name just
like
happens to be Cincinnati. Whoa! I'm your mayor now."
I would like to point out, though, that at the beginning in Kansas, Dorothy runs across what I think may be the only benevolent snake oil salesman in all movie history. She talks to Dr. Marvel or whatever his name is, and he literally tells her to go home and be safe.
Yeah.
And then, like, instead of running away, like, I can't believe she didn't end up in some dungeon or something after that. Like,
Right,
Yeah,
part of
this
his
is an old
sideshow.
man.
He
Yeah.
basically tells her a storm's coming. You should go home, and she
Yeah.
hangs out and sings.
roll up, ladies and gentlemen. See the Rube from Kansas. And her woman-biting dog.
Dinner will be served after.
Yes.
Yeah.
For show only.
Yes.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is definitely
for
my
sure.
least favorite movie in the MCU. Like Professor Marvel didn't do anything. Like
Professor Marvel.
his secret power was stealing sepia photos from little girls. Like
All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to overall?
I think.
Yeah, just one really quick thing. Did anyone think I remember the whole splashing the water on the witch and she melts. I remember that from a kid, but I thought there was more build up to it. It seemed awfully sudden, and there's no real explanation as to why she's like, I don't know, destroyed by water.
Pervious to
Is it?
water.
Yeah, why?
I know.
Why?
She never learned to swim.
And
She
it
just
doesn't
drowned,
seem
though.
Shower.
Yeah.
She can't take showers. She probably stinks.
probably why
she
the skin's
stinks
green.
It's wicked
shit.
smelly.
Yes. Oh, she wears a heavy black frock all day, flying around close to the sun, and she can't touch water.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought that was a
about
little
that
odd.
during
That
Gone
was-
with the Wind too. I'm like, all these people
Oh,
smell
God, yeah.
like cigar, bourbons, and assholes.
And wearing
smells
overly covered stuff like that is just
Yeah.
layered deep.
Yeah, it's 100 degrees, 90% humidity.
In the
It
South.
just smells like when the cooler goes out at the fish market.
That's a great name. Hold on. That's a great name for Gone with the Wind. Cigars, bourbon, and buttholes.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know about you guys, but in my castle, I do keep a full bucket of acid that could dissolve me at any moment. But I do keep it like up in one of the kids' bedrooms. I don't.
Right.
It's,
That's a very
Yeah.
safe spot for it.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
put it in
it's
the
interest-
hallway.
It's an
Right.
interesting thing to keep around your greatest weakness in your house.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
I
Superman
thought
keeping
that was a-
kryptonite just locked away in a drawer.
just in case.
Just
You
in
never
case.
Just in
know.
case. You
Yeah.
never know.
Just in
Yeah, and
case
then
the
I-
stock market crashes.
She's like,
Oh, I
I'm
lost
gonna
all
end
my
it.
money. What am
I'm
I going to
gonna
do?
I got this kryptonite. I'm gonna eat it. It's fine.
Superman broke on the headline of the Metropolis News.
And
Kryptonite.
I think one of the things that we didn't mention too in the kind of the production design and visual effects kind of thing. When they first meet the wizard, that's actually, I thought that was remarkably well done too, where his face is like projected and there's all that.
Yes.
Well, as Tom noted, probably toxic smoke, but I thought that looked really incredible, and I thought we should mention that at least once because that was really well done.
Rear projection.
It was very cool.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Kyle.
Oh, did you pick me first?
Yeah.
You started the round.
Put my nipples in a twister and give me Wizard of Oz.
All right, Tom.
Tom with the Wind.
Tom with the Wind.
I'm putting a fart in the wind.
Well, unlike Tom's experience, I think my view of Gone with Wind went down significantly after this viewing. But my view of Wizard of Oz went up. So I'm going to go with Wizard of Oz.
All right. And I'm pretty sure I know Andrew's Wizard of Oz.
Frankly, Mike, I don't give a damn what you think it is.
It took a long time for that to come out.
Wizard of Oz.
Yep. All right. I've got a lot of leftover trivia. So Ray Bolger was originally cast as the Tin Man. However, he insisted that he would rather play the Scarecrow. His childhood idol, Fred Stone, had originated that role on stage in 1902. Buddy Ebsen had been cast as a Scarecrow and now switched roles with Bolger. Unbeknownst to him, however, the makeup for the Tin Man contained aluminum dust, which ended up coating Ebsen's lungs. He also had an allergic reaction to it. One day, he was physically unable to breathe and had to be rushed to the hospital. The part was immediately recast, and MGM gave no public reason why Ebsen was being replaced. The actor considered this the biggest humiliation he ever endured and a personal affront. When Jack Haley took over the part of the Tin Man, he wasn't told why Ebsen had dropped out, and in the meantime, the Tin Man makeup was changed from aluminum dust to aluminum paste. As one of its key components, it wouldn't get in your lungs, I guess. However, his vocals remain whenever the song "We're Off to See the Wizard" is played. Jack Haley's vocals were never used during the song, but were used for "If I Only Had a Heart" and "If I Only Had the Nerve." Ebsen's vocals are also heard in the extended version of "If I Were King of the Forest," though the spoken segment has Haley. Although Ebsen didn't appear in the film, surviving still photos show him taking part in the Wicked Witch's Castle sequence. So yeah,
Hollywood.
I wonder why the guy died 10 years later.
What happened? What happened to the other guy? Why am I the Tin Man? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Put this on.
Shut up. Rub this all over your face.
Yeah.
Hold your breath.
When the wardrobe department was looking for a coat for Frank Morgan, Professor Marvel, worst MCU character, and the Wizard, it decided it wanted one that looked like it had been elegant but had since gone to seed. They visited a secondhand store and purchased an entire rack of coats from which Morgan, the head of the wardrobe department, and director Victor Fleming chose one they felt gave off the perfect appearance of shabby gentility. One day while he was on set in it, he idly turned out one of the pockets and discovered a label indicating that it had been made for L. Frank Baum. Mary Mayer, a unit publicist for the film, contacted the tailor and Baum's widow, who both verified that it had at one time been owned by the author of the original Wizard of Oz books. After filming was completed, it was presented to Miss Baum.
That's my favorite movie trivia of all time.
I love that trivia. Let's see. At the end of the sequence, we're going to do a little myth busting here, in which Dorothy and Scarecrow first meet the Tin Man as the three march off singing "We're Off to See the Wizard." There is a disturbance in the trees off to the right. This was long rumored to be one of the crew, or by some accounts, one of the Munchkin actors, committing suicide by hanging himself. In fact, it is the silhouette of a crested crane stretching its wings. As several large birds had been allowed to wander the background to lend the appearance of mysterious creatures lurking in the woods. A close look reveals the bird's black-tipped white wing as the bird reacts to the actors passing close by. The crane is spotted in the background several times prior to the hanging scene. The conspiracy was disturbing enough for Warner Brothers to edit the footage, and in all official remastered versions released since 1998, the hanging munchkin is gone and the stork has been digitally colored bright pink so that it cannot be mistaken for anything else. However, further confusion grew in the 2000s when an unknown person released a short clip of original enhanced footage, quote unquote, in which the stork had been entirely erased and a clearer image of a hanging human form edited in its place. The urban legend of the hanging munchkin, while false, persists. I remember that was a big thing in the 2000s. Because that was right around the time where we all learned that if you played Dark Side of the Moon and The Wizard of Oz together, they kind of synced up.
That's awesome.
It's called The Dark Side of Oz.
Yes.
And I do have it. It's very pretty.
David O. Selznick wanted the railroad scene of the Confederate wounded to be the largest and highest pullback in film history to depict the shocking human wastage of war. Today, it would be easy with a helicopter or drone shot, but it was impossible in 1939. A search through California found a crane rig of 125 feet with a 90-foot extension. Selznick wanted 2,500 extras, but his budget advisors cut the number to 1,600 plus 1,200 dummies. The Screen Extras Guild, hearing of this, demanded real people were used for all the wounded. Selznick agreed, but the guild could only supply 1,500 people. 1,500 people are in that shot.
That is incredible.
It's incredible to me.
And you have to, at least on a rudimentary level, you have to have costumes for them.
Yes.
Somehow. I don't know how they did that, but yeah. I can't imagine like coordinating 1,500 people
Well, first of all, coordinating. Well, let's get them to dress. You go up to your costume designer. Yeah, I need 1,500 Confederate outfits.
Confederate outfits.
What?
And they need to look worn, and they need to look like they were actually they're dying.
Yes,
because these people are injured and hurt. So go.
Yeah.
Do you think there was
when do you need these? Tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of tunics.
Yes.
Gray pants. Good enough.
Yeah.
The first scene to be shot was the burning of the Atlanta Depot, filmed on December 10th of 1938. If there was a major mistake during the filming, the entire film might have been scrapped. They actually burned many old sets that needed to be cleared from the studio backlot, including ones from The Garden of Allah, 1936, and the Great Wall set from King Kong, 1933. The fire cost over $25,000, or $549,000, 880.28 cents in 2024 money, and yielded 113 minutes of footage. It was so intense that Culver City residents jammed the telephone lines thinking MGM was burning down. Scarlett was stunt doubled by Eileen Goodwin and Leela Finn, while Rhett was doubled by veteran stuntmen Yakima Kunit and Jay Wilsey. 113 minutes of footage in today's money, almost $550,000.
Now, to be fair, jamming the lines in 1939 just meant two people tried to call in at the same time.
Wait, why does setting something on fire cost $500,000?
Well, probably for all the crew. You probably had to have fire department there.
I mean, but safety wasn't what it was. The fact that they were
burn
like,
all the extras.
The fact that they just were like, you know what, these old sets, we don't want to tear them down. You know what, let's just set them on fire and shoot it.
Well, you know. All right, let's move on to our recommendations for this month. We will start with Tom.
All right, so I'm not doing a Victor Fleming movie. I think everybody should go out and see The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. It is a party of a movie. It's so much fun. It's funny. The action scenes. It's David Leitch, who did Bullet Train and Deadpool 2 and worked on John Wick, and so that the action scenes are top notch. This is the absolute best. It's very funny. Of course, Gosling and Blunt have wonderful chemistry, like they do with everybody. And the story is interesting and keeps you hooked. It's a really great way to start off the summer movie season. I'm really disappointed by how well it's doing at the box office. I'm not sure why people aren't coming back, because this one just kind of spells like this is a movie people should see in the theater. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun and worth seeing. And there was another point that I'm stalling on because I tried to think of it. But anyway, you guys should definitely go see Fall Guy, because it really is like a really good first summer movie for us. And it's a tribute, it really is a tribute. And there's a scene at the beginning before the movie starts where Leitch and Gosling are talking about how this really is a tribute to the stunt performers and stunt departments that have been doing movies since Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, and made these movies, risking their lives to tell these stories. And they say that this is really for them. And there's even a knock on the Academy Awards in the movie that is pretty funny. So definitely worth go seeing. I think this is the strongest recommendation I've ever made, but you should really go see The Fall Guy.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Amanda and I really want to see it. I mean, to me, it just looks like a great date night movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's so much fun.
Gabe?
Well, I'm kind of torn here. I've got two, and I wanted to do one that was really related to what we were talking about tonight, but I'm not sure I actually enjoyed it enough to actually recommend it and, cause anyone to go see it. I'll mention it after my actual recommendation. I'm going to recommend a limited series on Netflix called Griselda. It's about really kind of the first female drug lord, and it stars Sofia Vergara, and she's kind of in makeup to make her look a little bit more like Griselda actually did. And her performance is really great. And I think the tie-in here is that she plays a female character who is so strong-willed and so stubborn and willing to do anything to be in control and have what she wants, that it actually ends up destroying her. And I feel like that's kind of like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. She'll do anything. She'll marry men she doesn't love. She'll do anything to get what she wants. And that's what Griselda is like in this miniseries. And it's based on a true story. I don't know how accurate it is. It's very dark. It's very gritty. It's reminiscent at times of Ozark, but it's a limited series. It's not going to be like 10 seasons of this. But there's a lot of great performances. It's at times very shocking, but it's well produced, and I would definitely recommend watching Griselda.
All right, thanks, Gabe.
Oh, let me mention. Here's the other one I was going to mention really quick. I watched another Clark Gable movie. It won a bunch of Oscars. It won Best Picture, Best Leading Actor, Best Leading Actress, Best Director, Best Writing in 1935. It's called It Happened One Night. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen it. Have any of you ever seen it?
Yeah, it's fun.
It wasn't my favorite, and I had some problems with it that I think were similar to what the problems we had with Gone with the Wind. It didn't. In some ways, it didn't age all that well. It was directed by Frank Capra, who we all know from It's a Wonderful Life, and it was a really well made movie. But I don't know if modern audiences would really be into it unless you really like classics. Anyway, that was going to be my other recommendation, but I wasn't 100% positive that it was one I should. So,
all right,
thank you,
Gabe. Andrew.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for another kind of fun whimsical. Unfortunately, there is music in it, so Tom will hate it and won't want to ever see it again if he has seen it, which I'm guessing he has, but has one of my favorite actors in it, and I really appreciate the magic of it, and I would say the fun of it, and that's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. It just has that same kind of wonder, goofy, over the topness that Wizard of Oz has, but I think is a little more timeless in that sense. But always been one of my favorites. Love me a good Gene Wilder and some Willy Wonka magic, because it's a goofy, over the top kind of movie like that. So
I love
I
love Willy Wonka.
Really?
I do. I just watched it like 2 weeks ago, front to end. It was a sit down and watch. And I have background. I loved it, and it's I've seen it multiple times. It's very, very good.
Yes.
Fun fact: Gene Wilder said later on in interviews that he told the director that he did not want the job if he could not do the walk-in the way he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Have you guys seen the new one with Timothée Chalamet?
I have.
Yeah.
Is that any good? Would you?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was very whimsical. You know, it's in today's modernization with film and, digital and everything. But I think it had the same kind of fun, fluty kind ofness that Willy Wonka did. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know if the previews made it obvious that am I understanding right that it's actually kind of like a prequel?
It is. Yeah. It's how he got his start.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was a remake. And I'm like, oh, do we really want to do that? No, and so I lost interest when I thought that.
Originally, it was called How Wonka Got His Groove Back.
It's would it be How Wonka Got His Groove Started?
Oh
no, and they said too that they were staying true to the story of the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka. That's really intended to be a prequel to that one. So, and Paul King is such a really fun, lighthearted director. I mean, the two Paddington movies are, they're masterpieces of cinema. I think they are amazing, and I don't know, people don't talk about them enough.
Yeah, it's goofy.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
It was Unbearable Weight with Nicolas Cage. That was like Paddington 2 is like the crux of that movie with him and Pedro Pascal. So yeah, Paddington movies of Wonka are great.
Cool, thanks.
Kyle.
Yeah, my recommendation doesn't have much to do with anybody else's or these movies, with the exception of Tom, in that it's a fairly new movie that was in theaters not too long ago. I sat down and watched Late Night with the Devil on Shudder last night, and I have sort of mixed feelings about it. It's a slight recommendation for me, but I think it's worth watching and recommending that people watch for its sort of setting, its take on if it bleeds, it leads, sweeps weeks sort of exploitation on talk shows that would become a thing much later. This is obviously based in the 70s. And it suffers from some of the low budget horror kind of scary movie tropes, but I think it's interesting, and it's interesting enough to watch. It's one I want to watch again to see if I get more out of. But check it out. There's a starring role for Polka Dot Man from the new Suicide Squad. So I can't pronounce his name off the top of my head.
I don't like watching a lot of horror films, but for some reason I want to watch that one. All right. Well, like Gabe, I have 2 recommendations, but I'm only going to go with one. And it is a new film as well. It is directed by Guy Ritchie, and it's about the British military recruiting the first highly skilled soldiers to take on Germans behind enemy lines. It is a blast. I love it. Anytime I can watch guys just killing Nazis, that's a good time for me. It stars Superman and Reacher, and they blow up a lot of shit. They kill a lot of Nazis, and throughout, after watching it, I'm like, man, there wasn't a lot of Guy Ritchie-esque shots. And then the more I thought about it, he just made a straight out like 1950s, 1960s war movie. And it was great. Like, I had so much fun watching the movie. And a shout out to it's got Carrie Elwes, but Till Schweiger plays the big baddie in the film, and he does a fantastic job of playing this absolutely horrible person. So good. Look for it on streaming. I'm guessing it's going to be out soon, but The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare
just came out this last week.
All right, there you go. Let's poke the monkey. Find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner, by decision, is the Wizard of Oz!
What is that, Andrew? Is that a finger?
Please, God, let it be a finger. For those of you that are just listening to the show and not watching on Twitch, there's a monkey that has popped up and pointed at the winner.
The wiener.
The wiener. That's fantastic. Please let that be a finger. Please leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. And if you want to listen to an unedited version live, you can catch us on Twitch whenever we record an episode. In June, we will be hosting a Verhoeven Vecton as RoboCop takes on Starship Troopers. For Gabe, Andrew, Tom, Kyle, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
What's all this jabber-wopping when there's work to be done?
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. People always say it's good to unwind, but that's easier said than done. The exception, Chumba Casino. They actually make it easier done than said, or at least the same. Chumba Casino is an online social casino with hundreds of casino-style games like slots and blackjack. Play for fun. Play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sign up now and collect your free welcome bonus at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.